Okay. Now, our next speaker, I brought him in from Hong Kong, though he came all the way around the world to get here. Okay. Whoop, I touched your mouse. Julie always says me not to touch anything because I always mess it up on the computers. Okay, but when we decided to do Albert's book, we wanted to talk to him, and last year we were in China 3 times, and so it was last November, I believe it was.
Yes, in Taiwan.
That's usually where, we're over there in November. We were in Beijing and Shanghai, and we had to go to Taiwan. So we asked Albert to come from Hong Kong to meet us in Taiwan and discuss everything about putting the book out. But it's Chinese astrology, but it's not normal Chinese astrology. It's a
Chinese astrology, but very comprehensive.
Yeah, it's a different kind than they would find.
Animal science.
Yeah, it's not the kind they would normally find. Okay, come on up, Albert.
Okay.
This is Albert Cheung. Okay. And you are a businessman.
Yes.
That's the trouble, but we're finding out most of my authors are in the corporate world, they're business people, and yet they go over into metaphysics too. Okay. Albert Cheung, and he's going to talk about the Chinese astrology. The Emperor's Stargate is the name of the book. And the books haven't come in. We thought they'd be here Friday, they're not. We are taking orders. This is 3 books that didn't make it in time. We're taking orders out there. Okay.
Thank you, Doris. Hello, everyone. First of all, of course, I have to thank Doris for bringing me here. Now, the topic I'm going to share with you this afternoon is called Success on All Levels, okay? And also the other name of the book, the other title of the book is also called The Emperor's Stargate. Now, first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm your master of Chinese wisdom with creative method. Why? Because for the last 10 years, I've been trying to promote, the content of Chinese wisdom, like feng shui, like I Ching, like astrology, like the art of war, I'm trying to put together, all the content of this Chinese wisdom in simple methods, like books, like card games, and computer software. Okay. What I like to say is back about 20 to 30 years ago, I have been very interested in what we call the Chinese metaphysics. And the roots, of all this Chinese culture and wisdom is probably a book called the I Ching. I'm sure a lot of people here have read the book. It is also called the Book of Change, and it is actually a book about the yin and yang. Right. And the first thing that I do about, to make, the wisdom of the Book of Change available to people for all walks of life is actually I convert the 64 hexagrams, of the Book of Change, which represent also the 64 kinds of wisdom, convert it into a pack of tarot cards, so that when people are playing with the tarot cards, when they ask the question of what kind of situation they're going to face in future, how they are going to face the challenges, then through, the picture of the cards, they'll be able to find an answer. And then about in the year 1999, I start to write books on the Chinese astrology system called 几位斗数, and literally translated as the purple astrology. Okay, so this is the Chinese version. Two years later, I worked together with a lady called Alexandra Hatim, to put together, an English version of the Emperor's Stargate. Now, this book actually comes out in the year 2002, I think. And then for about 9 to 10 years later on, that's about, I think, 2010, we did decided, to write a book, with a more comprehensive coverage, on the total content of the Chinese astrology, and at the same time, to interpret it from the angle of success. All right. So I would like to say, about three years ago, we put up, a book cover like this, and then we have been trying to send, our script to publishers all over the world. And of course, it is tough. But last year, we did have a good reply from Ozark. And this is the book, okay? So coming back to the main subject or the main topic of the book. The main topic of the book is about success. So the first question perhaps we'd like to ask is, what is the definition of success? Most people will probably give you the answer, to be rich. And if you're working in a big companies, you're probably, well, the success is probably to become the MD, to become the chairman, and so on. But how we like to look at, the definition of success is actually to know your life mission. Okay, if you're able to find out what your life mission is, you'll be able to find what is the right job for you. Okay, and most important of all, apart for finding the right job, the next is actually to find out the right wealth management strategy. Very often we heard about people, asking the questions, whether it is suitable for me, for me to invest the money in the money market, or whether, it is only good for me to put the money into what we call the low risk thing, like buying the properties and so on. And I think you do agree that money is what is very important to our life, right? Right. So we have said that the important thing about success is to find out our life mission. So the content to find out our life mission is actually to identify your talents. I'm sure everybody who comes to Earth, God actually will give us a talent, right? So once we can identify our talents, we'll be able to find out our success path. Now, how to find out our talents? Obviously, we need to have a tool to find out who you are. Okay, what is your personality type? And because once we can identify your personality type, well, we'll be able to know about your life and also your destiny. So now we come to give you some background about the tool called the Emperor Stargate. And through the tool, we'll be able to find out, our personality type, our life and destiny. Okay. Now, the Emperor Stargate, as I've just mentioned, well, is actually also called the purple astrology. Okay. It has more than 1,000 years of history, and it originates, from Taoism. And I think, people, once they heard about Tao, it's actually about, the universal energy being comprised of what we call the yin and yang. And from the yin and yang is further developed into what we call the 5 elements. Okay, the 5 elements being the water, the metal, the wood, the earth, and also the fire. Okay, and obviously, the whole system is created by a Taoist. If we want to look at the whole Emperor Stargate in simple terms, it is actually quite simple because it is only comprised of 3 big elements. One, we actually have quite a number of stars there. We also have the chambers, and we also have what we call the catalyst. The catalyst will change, according to the time frames, whether it is from year to year or from a 10-year period to the next 10-year period. Okay. Well, 2,500 years ago, Confucius did say to us that heaven is awesome. It gives us the 4 seasons. It gives us everything on earth. And if you have a look, Albert Einstein did also say, 2 things inspire me to awe. The first is the starry heavens above, and also the moral universe within. So now, we are now talking about the astrology system. The Chinese system that we're talking about, in fact, is very similar to also the Western astrology. We're also talking about, the heaven above us, or the sky above us. So we very well understand that we are in the solar system, okay? So this is the sun, and then the Mercury, Venus, and this is the Earth, okay? And we all knew that, sorry, this is too quick. We all knew that, the Earth orbits around the sun. But if we take, that the Earth as the center, then the sun and also the moon, will actually go around us, okay? Now, from the Western astrology point of view, we actually tend to look at what we call the real stars, the real star above us. So from the Western astrology point of view, they tend to cut, the piece of sky above us into 12 sectors, okay? Obviously, people like me, I was born in December, so I have the zodiac sign of the Sagittarius, okay? So there will be 12, the 12 zodiac sign. Now, how the Chinese astrology, interpret our astrology system is the sky above us, we divide it into 10 equal sectors, okay? And it is rounded. Why it is rounded? Well, the Chinese have the saying that the sky is round and the earth is square. So why it is rounded? Because once we look up the skies, the sun will go from east to west, okay, always making a circle. So it is rounded. And why the earth is square? Because we are stepping on the earth, okay? And the earth seems to us, it is not moving, okay? And that's why it is square. Now, square seems to be what gives us the feeling of being stable. And that's why, from a feng shui point of view, most of the building that is actually built are designed to have a square base or a rectangular base. Now, have a look at what actually, the sky is. We actually divide it into what we call the 10 equal sectors. Why 10? Because we have the five elements, right? We have the water, the metal, and then the wood, and so on. But every of these 5 elements have also the yin and the yang. So 2 times 5 is equal to 10. Okay? Now, obviously, if you would like to know about what is the yang wood means the nature of the forest trees, the yin wood, the nature of flowers and small plants. The yang fire is basically the solar nature, and so on. So we do have quite a good count, of what is the 10 heavenly stem, of what it actually translated into the real world. Okay? So this is what we call it. And then we talk about also, the earthly branches. Now, you might like to ask, why the heaven have 10 and then the earthly branches have 12? We also actually have what we call, the five elements. But because it is earth, so the earth elements will actually have 4 sectors. And these 4 earth sectors will represent, the 4 seasons. So the 4 sectors is actually the snake, the monkey, the pig, and also the tiger. It is actually the goat, the ox, the dragon, and also also the dog. Now, the 12 earthly branches can also be represented by the animal signs. Now, each animal sign can actually represent a year, okay, can actually represent a day, and actually can represent an hour sign, okay? And we all knew that for the current year, we are in the year of what? Snake, and next year will be the horse, okay. Now, so we would like to actually go back to actually this slide. What the Chinese astrology says, I think it is also about the Western astrology, is, before you were born, you are in the womb of your mom, right? So as long as you are still inside the womb of your mom, you are still part of your mom, okay? So the moment that the umbilical cord is cut, you will become an individual. The moment that the umbilical cord is cut, the energy of the heaven above us and also the energy of the earth that is below you will actually have what we call an interaction, giving rise, to the quality of the individual. So as I've just said, we have 12 what we call the earthly branches, and a typical Chinese astrology chart will also have what we call the 12 chambers. Okay, so this will be the self chambers, the peers chambers, the spouse, the minors, the prosperity, health, travel, staff, and so on. Very similar, to the Western astrology that you also probably have the 12 chambers, but the alignment, is probably a little bit different. One thing that people would probably like to ask is why the self chamber is here and the peers next, and then the spouse next. Well, in fact, it's very much in line with what we call our life philosophy. Say, for example, our life comes from our parents, right? Our parents, apart from giving birth to me, he also gave birth to our brothers and sisters, okay? Now, once we actually grew up, the next kind of activity that is going to have is actually finding a spouse. Once finding a spouse, the next is to give rise to the children, okay? And in order to to raise our family, to the children, we will need to have what we call the wealth, okay? And if you want to earn money, you need to have good health. Once you have good health, you have to travel outside to make your own living, right? And in order to make a good living, you need to have many friends and people who would work for you. Now, if you have many friends, if you have good network in the society, you'll be able to build up your career. Okay, once you have your career, you have good friends, money, you'll be able to settle down in your home. Okay, once you have everything accomplished, you'll be able to enjoy life. Okay, and then goes around the circles. Okay, so this is how it actually goes around in what we call the circle. Now, we are also talking about what we call the golden triangle of success. Why? Because apart from looking at the stars in the self, we would also like to know about, what kind of stars that sit in the career chamber and what kind of star that sits in our prosperity chamber. Okay, so this is what we call about the success triangle. As we have just mentioned at the start of the presentation, success is really about to know yourself, find out your life mission, your personality trait, and then find out the right kind of wealth management strategy, and find out the right career platform. So now we come to the stars. Okay, now very quickly, in the whole astrology system we're talking about, we have actually quite a big number of stars, something like 127. But we are talking about, only the major stars, which actually describe, our major personality. And this is what we call the 14 stars. So we have about 8 stars in what we call the northern hemisphere, and then 6 stars in what we call the southern hemisphere. So this is what we call the grade A star, which composed of what we call 14 in total. And then we also have what we call the grade B stars. And with the grade B star, we actually have 2 big sets. One is what we call the 6 auspicious stars, which just from the names of it, you will tell that it's going to bring about what we call, good energy. Like the left minister, right minister, literary minister, arts minister, stardust, and delight. Okay? And with the other, what we call the 6 dark stars, well, we talk about the ram, the spinning top, fire, the bell, punishment, and the void. Now, something I like to mention about, the last 2, the punishment and the void. When one of the main, theme to find about our life is, what kind of investment strategy that is good, that is actually good to us. Very often, if you have kids, particularly you would probably like to ask the question, is my son, have the luck to run a business? Or he doesn't have the money to run a business. He just probably, find himself good, to be a professional, like being a doctor, like being a lawyer, So very often we will try to look for where the punishment and the void is. If the void and the punishment sit in his self chamber and the prosperity chamber, definitely, he doesn't have a lot of luck, in what we call the money game, okay? And the void also, of course, have what we call a lot of good something, because the void means he look at the things, in a very wide angle. So in some other words, he will be a very creative person. And the next, of course, is what we call the catalyst. Now, the catalyst doesn't exist on its own. It is being attached to one of what we call the grade A star or some of the grade B stars. Now, why is called the catalyst? It's because from year to year, the catalyst combination will change. And that's why it also accounts for, why life is changing. Why this year, I'm feeling pretty relaxed, but the next year, life seems to be a lot more tight, because, the catalyst is changing from year to year. And of course, I've just mentioned, in the whole, what we call the astrology, we have what we call the 14 major stars. This is the crimson, the wave, commander, the sun, the intelligence there, and also the emperor. And also we have what we call the South Polar star combination, with the world being the leader, of the star combinations. And they do, the relationship between the volt and vamp, does have what we call the fixed pattern, okay? Now, in the astrology chart, we actually have quite a number of charts. Particularly for the beginners, we'd like to say we have what we call the life chart. Now, once you have your date and time of birth, the computer will automatically convert the dates, from the Western calendar into the what we call the Eastern, the Oriental solar into the solar calendar. The lunar calendar. According to the lunar calendar, we will refer to a number of tables, and actually build up what we call the chart. Okay, so we will have what we call the life chart. The life chart will tell us about, at the moment that you are born, what is actually the constellations of stars above you, which give rise actually, your personality traits. What is this like, for the people who will meet you, whether in the spouse chamber, in the peers chamber, and so on. Now, we have life and we also have what we call the destiny. Okay, so imagine if you have a lifespan of 100 years. So the Chinese astrology say the 100 years can be divided into a number of 10 years period. Okay, and within one particular 10-year period, one particular 10-year period, you also have 10 current years. And that's why we say we actually have 3 charts, okay, that we would like to look at. Now, from here, I actually would like to show you an astrology chart. Oh. I need some help. Yeah, I need to opt out of the PowerPoint here. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead and just minimize it.
Maybe can you cancel the PowerPoint first?
Yeah. Let's see.
This one. Oh, okay, yeah. Ooh. All right, yeah. Let me show you this. Now, this is what we call, our computerized Chinese astrology chart. If you buy the book, there will be a disk, that will come together. And of course, if you haven't got the book, you can always go to our site, to download download the computer software. Now, the operation of the software is actually very easy and convenient. Obviously, I've already downloaded, a lot of birth information. Say, for example, this is Barack Obama. So let's have a look. Now, Barack Obama was born in the year 1961, August the 4th, and the time is 8 o'clock p.m. Okay, now, what is actually the star that sits in the self chamber? Now, particularly for the beginners, if you don't know what is the self, just press this one. It will actually give you a good description of what it is like for the self chamber. What is this completion? Press it. It will tell you it is a glowing lucky star. That brings material and spiritual wealth. So I think we all agree that Barack Obama is a pretty lucky guy, right? Now, what we actually see in what we call the self chamber, he also got the left minister. So throughout his life, he actually get a lot of support. Okay. Obviously, the other star is what we call the punishment. Now, but the punishment says that he doesn't have too much luck, in playing the money game. But there is also some positive traits associated with the star called the punishment. Is that people who have the punishment tend to have very good political skills. All right. Now, apart from having had a look at the self chamber, we also like to have a look at the travel chambers, because the self and the travel chamber is what we call the opposite chambers. Okay. Now, in the opposite chambers, we actually see the star called. This is what we call the intelligence. Intelligence means he is brainy, okay? And also there is a star called what? Called the messenger. The messenger, that means he is very gifted at speech. Now understand that I have do a lot of reading, particularly with those who are in the sales business, who are what we call the speakers, and also the radio hosts. Most of them actually have the sign called the messenger, that sits in the travel chamber or in the self chamber. All right. Now, to operate the system, you can also find out for a particular 10-year period what is actually what will be the sign that sits in his self chamber for that particular 10 years. Now, last year, in fact, I probably like most of the American people, they were very interested to know whether Barack Obama will be able to re-elect, to his second presidency. Now, so what I did is actually have a look at the year chart for the year 2001, for the 2012. Well, come on, yeah, here. So what I just need to is the 2012. Now, and for that particular year, actually, he actually has, his self chamber, for that particular year with what we call the emperor sign, that sign in his self chamber of last year, and also with the power catalyst attached to the emperor sign. Now, just haven't had a look at it. I understand that last year he is blessed with very strong power. Okay, particularly with the energy of the emperor sign. Well, so let's have a look at some other celebrities, like Michael Jackson. Okay, now it is very strange to know that for Mike Jackson, the self chamber actually is empty. Okay, but then in his travel chamber, he has what we call the sun. Okay, and the sun has always got the power to what? To shine on every people. So his power actually to influence the world is actually very, very strong. And from my research, I understand he's probably the artist who donates the most of money to the charity, right or not? Okay, so this is the sun. And also, apart from the sun, he actually have got what we call the fame catalyst attached to it. Okay, and of course, in also the same chamber, you have got the scholar. Okay. Now, people would probably like to ask the questions, what actually caused the death of Mike Jackson? Now, we can actually find some clues, from what we call the 10 years chart, okay? So if you actually press the 10 years chart button, automatically it will tell you, for a particular, man or woman, there will be a number of 10 years period, Depending on the individual birth information, some people start their 10 year from age 2, some from age 3, some from age 4. And particularly for Mike Jackson, he actually had his first 10-year period starting from age 3 to 12. Now, let's have a look at his last 10-year period, which is from the age 43 to 52. Now, I would like to highlight that, as I've just mentioned, what are the stars that account for the changes of life? It's actually what we call the catalyst. Now, we actually have four kind of catalysts. One is called the wealth catalyst, the fame catalyst, and then also the fame and finally we got what we call one of the dark catalysts. And this is what we call the obstacle. Now, here, when I put actually the squares there, it is what we call the obstacles. Now, you can actually see that, for this particular 10 years, he has the obstacle catalyst attached to the moon, which happens, to fall into what we call his karmic chambers. And for that particular 10 years, just opposite there is also what we call the obstacle catalyst attached to the catalyst, to the star of the intelligence, okay? So we actually have two obstacle catalysts aligned in one straight line, which actually happen, to cast a very strong negative energy to his mental world. Now, you probably like to ask, what are the sectors or what are the things, that cause such a big anxiety, to his mental world? Can you see the career? Okay. Well, obviously, perhaps is it true that within the last 10 years of his life, it seems that there is a lot of pressure on him to organize a lot of tours, around the world. It's probably because of the heavy stress, that bring about the death. Okay. Now here I would like to stress that, we never like to say you will be dying when. We will only say that, for that particular 10 years, you will come across this kind of challenges, or you will come across, a lot of good stars, that brings about what we call a lot of positive energies. Okay. Maybe just to look at a little bit more, and now how about let's have a look at Bill Gates, okay? Now, do you think you'll be a bit surprised, to see that, the sign, he has actually got the sign of the moon, in what we call in his self chambers. And Bill Gates is very good at what? Business. Computer software. He's very good at doing research. So that's have a lot to do with what we call the mental world, okay? And you can actually also see that, this is the self chamber, and in the travel chamber, that's opposite. He has got what? The intelligence. So intelligence and the moon coming together actually stand for that guy or that lady, is very talented in research, in creativity, okay? Well, the next one that we probably like to share with you will be of quite what we call from an interest point of view. It's about the charge of Prince William. Now, in the year 2011, actually, I have the chance to be invited, to go for a TV interview by CNN, okay? And he actually asked me the question, what will be the marriage, of Prince William like, okay? And then the first thing that I would like to guide, the anchor to have a look at the spouse chamber of the spouse chamber, of Prince William. What is the sign here? Emperor. Okay. Now, with the emperor sign that sit in the spouse chamber of someone, that means at least the guy have a lot of respect for his wife. So just from also from other kind of interpretation, I can say that his marriage is a lot better than his father. Okay. Now let's move on to. Okay, so let's hide this and go back to the PowerPoint. Sorry, I didn't tell you that, that. Yeah. Oh, okay, fine. Yeah. So let's move on very quickly, to the concepts. Okay. Well, as I've just pointed out with some of the charts, for the celebrity, this is Lady Diana, so he has got the sun, and this is Bill Gates, so he has got the moon and also the intelligence, and with Mike Jackson, he has got the arts minister and the sun, and with Warren Buffett, he has got the emperor. Now, why the emperor is such an important sign? Because with emperor sign that sit in the self chamber, automatically there will be a very good star that is associated with money that sit in the prosperity chamber, and also a star called the crimson, that sits in the career chamber, and that's why my experience is if people actually have the star called the emperor that sits in the self chamber, very often he will be doing the job, something like the chief finance officer, or he might be an investment banker, okay? And this is George Soros. So he also have the emperor sign. But at the same time, in the self chamber, he has got the pioneer. That means he is quite a naughty boy, okay? Because he almost get the Bank of England bankrupt. All right, so this is the Barack Obama, Winfrey Oprah, and the main sign that sits in her chamber is actually the opportunity and the crimson. Okay, now this is what I've just mentioned in the year 2011. Okay, so the anchor actually asks, what is the marriage like, for Prince William? And as I've just mentioned, he has got the emperor sign, in his spouse chamber, and this is Donald Trump. So he has actually got the commander, okay? So he's a doer. And this is Bruce Lee, okay? All right. Now, I have, let's say, just five minutes, to say something about the wealth management. Nobody would probably disagree with the saying that, money is not important. Although people always say money can't buy everything. But without money, a lot of things you can't buy. Okay, so in the Chinese astrology system, it is very easy to find out whether you are lucky with money matters or you are not lucky. The first is, try to locate some of these stars that is associated with good money luck, and this is the completion, the wealth catalyst, the commander, the moon on the vote. If it happens that you have this, few money star that sit in your life chambers, the travel, and also your prosperity chambers, overall speaker, you are pretty lucky. But on the other hand, if you have actually what we call the void, the punishment or the obstacle catalyst that sit in your prosperity chamber, or sit in your life chamber, then your money luck is so-so or pretty bad, okay? Now let me share with you a story. I still remember about 5 to 6 months ago, a friend of mine actually rang me up and said that 3 to 4 months ago, my son actually come and said to me he wanted to start up a trading business. And because he hasn't got a lot of money, so he asked for the father's support. And the father gave him $500,000 Hong Kong dollar. But within a very short period of time, let's say for just a couple of months, he went to see his father again. Well, $500,000 is not enough. So he asked for another half a million. Another month's gone, then he also rang his father and said, oh, it is still not enough. Can I ask for $1 million? Now, at that point, he gave me a phone call and said, does my kid really have that luck? Or does he really have the ability, to run a trading business? So I asked him, very simple, give your kid's date and time of birth. And what it said is, the void sit in his life chamber, and the punishment sit in his prosperity chamber. And immediately I said, my advice is, the game of money, running a business is probably not good for him. He is probably good for what? Doing what we call a professional career. To be an engineer, to be a lawyer, or to be a doctor. Okay? So, it depends on how you look at it. I would like to say the Emperor Stargate chart is your most reliable investment consultant. Not the other consultants, that you have to pay for thousands of dollars to attend a course, and he teach you how to invest. Because no matter how many thousands of dollars that you pay them, they won't guarantee you what? Success. Okay? Now, maybe just as a conclusion, I would like to say, when everybody was born to Earth, God gave each of us a car. If you are lucky enough, you might get a Mercedes or a Rolls-Royce. Some who is just so-so maybe get a Honda. Okay? Some are not that lucky, maybe a Harley-Davidson. And not so lucky, maybe just a bicycle. Now, apart from giving you a car, God also arranged for you, what kind of road that you are going to ride on. Some will probably be giving, road like the motorway, straight on, no stops, and so on. Some will just be, a two-way, Some will probably have to ride on what we call a bumpy road. Some on very, 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 very smooth road. But I would like to point out that, remember, you are the driver, okay? So you always have the discretion of when to stop, when to accelerate, when to decelerate, when to pull over, and when to change cars. Now, the function of the Emperor Stargates, I would like to say, is actually to give you a picture of what lies ahead, okay? So what is actually, the cars, that is next to you, what's actually the road ahead? Will it actually be, a nice big road, or is it just a blind alley, okay? So the other kind of analogy is like, that the Emperor Stargate is what we call our royal observatory. Now, I do believe, most of you, when you left home, you must listen to the information from the information of the weather forecast. Okay, so whether it's going to be rainy or whether it's going to be sunny, because with this kind of information that you get, you'll be able to plan ahead what kind of activities you are going to have. So, success, what I would like to say, is about making the right judgment at the right time. Okay, and according, to a book called The Art of War, I wonder if anyone of you have it. It is actually written by an army general called Sun Ji 2,500 years ago. Okay, and he did say about, one of the 4 key elements of success is actually to know yourself and also to know the opponent. Because when you are fighting a battle, you need to have very good information about what yourself is and your opponent. Now, I wouldn't like to say that in life you will treat other people as your opponent. You have to know yourself, you have to know others. Others will be your spouse, your siblings, your friends, your staff, and so on, your elders. Now, apart just to know yourself and others is not good enough. It only gives you, the position not to lose the battle. But if you really want to win or to make success, finding your success, you have also to know the heaven and earth. Now, heaven means what? The timing. What is the situation that you're going to face in the next 10 years? What's the situation that you're going to face for the coming year, next year, and the year afterwards? Okay? So you need to know yourself, others, heaven, and earth. If you can grasp all this information, you will be able to grasp the key to find the success path. So finally, I'd like to wish all of you success on all levels, and best of luck. Q&A.
You said you wanted to also mention your workshop tomorrow.
Yes. Now, for people who are interested to find about how to learn about the operation of the software and how to actually use the software to find out your personality traits, how to know about the timing of the future. I do have a workshop tomorrow from 12 to 3.
Are there any questions? Okay.
My birthday was a long time ago, and I don't recollect exactly what hour I was born. Is that significant within?
In our Chinese astrology system, the time is actually pretty important. We actually divided, the 24 hours into what we call the 12 time zones. Okay, and that is from 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 7. But as long as you can remember, whether it is in the morning or in the afternoon, we actually will be able to figure out, whether you are from, say, for example, if you can tell me you are born in the morning, and you can tell me what you have been doing, for most of your lifetime, we actually will be able to tell you, which is actually your astrology chart.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if you have obstacles or modulators, I guess, in your particular houses.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
If that can be shifted by doing something else. You had mentioned feng shui, or there's always numerology, Chinese numerology, where maybe something can be changed by name or...
Yes. Now, this is a very good question, not to mention here in this part of the world, but in Asia, in China, a lot of people, when they come for this consultation, obviously the main picture, is like the main job is to give them, what your picture is, and what it is like for the picture for the coming year, what is it like for the rest of the year, and so on. Now, we will tend to highlight, what is the opportunity and what is the obstacles. We tend, like to advise people to accept, this kind of situation that they're going to face. Obviously, how to change it. It's not that easy to change it. But as you have just mentioned, there can be cases, that we can actually make his life better by changing the names, and also, doing something about the feng shui. Now, one tip that perhaps I would like to give you is, if lately you have been finding, that a lot of things have not been going well, then I would recommend you to wear along with you a piece of jade, okay? Because jade have that power to tranquilize, what we call the dark energy that surrounds you. But you have to remember that you always want what we call a genuine piece of jade. Because in the market, there can be some jade that are so beautiful, but they have gone through what we call artificial coloring. So remember, you need not to buy a very expensive piece of jade, okay? But you do need to have a natural piece of jade. And the jade can be green in color, can be dark in color, can be black in color. And also, can I also say something? Chinese always believe that our life cycle is like this, ups and downs. If you think you have a bad year this year, don't worry. I think the other day I have a reading, with one of the lady here. I would like to give them an analogy: is that if this is not a good year for you, so you are like a fisherman. You actually have your own fishing boat. So if the weather out there this year is not good, why don't you just stay inside the harbor? Spend some time to have a look at the quality of the fishing boat, and to check, whether the net is fine, whether there are some holes in there. Try to do all the fixing and all the amendment. If you also have time, try to do some research. Which part of the ocean have most of the fish? Okay. Now, do all this, what we call the background information research. When next year, if you have one bad year, next year is going to be better. So next year, when the weather is good, then, because you have done a lot of what we call the background work, so next year you bring your fishing boats out, and then you'll be able to get the most fishing reward. So don't worry about once you see your picture is no good, try to do a lot of things trying to change it. Chinese believe timing, okay? When timing this year, when the situation this year is not good, so sit back, relax, do the contemplation, do the preparation well. Now, put all the things in good order and wait for the good timing. I do think, there is quite a big difference between Western management thinking and Oriental management thinking. Western management thinking tend to something like that. If you see an obstacle there, they encourage you to jump over it. But with the Oriental way, think about it. Maybe stay for a bit of time. Maybe the obstacle will go on. If the obstacle don't go on, try to go around it, not to jump over. So we do it in the yin way, not the yang way. Okay. Okay.
Hi, we've been doing feng shui since 2004. In our last 3 houses, we have feng shui every single room and every free situation. We just moved into a house which our daughter's room happens to be over the fame, reputation, and wealth section. It's in the fame, reputation, and wealth section, but that part of the house, that bagua, is over the garage. And I was wondering if there's anything that I can do to bring more energy to that room.
Now, I do think, if you talk about the elements of the feng shui and the Qi, I would like to classify into what we call the five categories. The first category being, the overall view, of the house. Say, for example, in Hong Kong or even in this part of the world, most people would like to have a view of the harbor, the view of the lake, or the view of a nice grassland, right? So because imagine that your house sits here, then you are also the one who will actually sit here. What kind of energy that is being taken in by the house, will actually stand for the nature of the energy that will reside, in the internal of the house. The second very important parameter is actually about the compass bearing. That's why when you see a feng shui guy, going into your house, then he'll take along a compass, and try to measure what direction does your house face. Because once he get the compass bearing fixed, he'll be able to find out what is the nature of the energy that lies in the 9 sectors of the building. Now, I couldn't, give you an answer to what you have asked because I'm not there. But if you just ask, if you have a garage just underneath, that is probably not what we call the best kind of layout. Okay, the best feng shui premise always, have what we call what we call the stable kind of energy. From my point of view, the garage is best situated outside the main house. Maybe, you can come to me later on, and I can, if you can, write out something, then I can tell you something.
Any more questions? We have time for a few more because we cut into his time at the beginning.
Yes?
Hold on, Mike.
She's getting her workout today.
Okay. What happens if a married couple, one person has the wealth and luck and all those good things in the corner, and then they married somebody with bad luck, poverty, all that stuff? What happens?
Well, then the issue of love comes in, right? If he loves the other people, then he will able to tolerate, or whether it's positive energy or the negative energy that actually comes in. I think, one of the main issue, the topic about the transformation conference, is about love, right? Mm-hmm. But I would like to say, that if a guy is entering a stage of good times, even, that he met someone that doesn't, carries good luck because, of the intense, good energy that is actually surrounding him. Even the lady, that comes in with bad luck, will actually change. So, one of the main role, of consulting, the astrology is actually to find out, what are the times of good luck and what are the times of bad luck. If during the times of good luck, we would like to capitalize on it. If we actually recognize that, we are entering a period of what we call the rainy days, then try to not to be so aggressive, okay? Try to sit back, and look at it, how to avoid it. When I'm saying, how to avoid it, that means from a start, particularly if you're doing business, okay? So you probably like to stick to what you are doing now, not to do any kind of expansion, to be more conservative, let's say in your strategies. That is the kind of approach, when you see that you are going to enter some, what we call period of bad times. Do I answer your question?
Yeah, I was just curious.
Okay, is that everything? Okay, then. Well, thanks, Albert. Thanks for coming
Thank you.
halfway around the world.